Ein Harod is also known as Gideon Spring. It's situated here on the edge of the Harod Valley and right at the base of Mount Gilboa. This entire region saw a number of Bible events of great significance, but one in particular was the battle between Gideon and the Israelites against the Midianites and their confederates.
The Valley of Jezreel is also known as the Plain of Esdraelon, and the first century Jewish historian Josephus simply calls it the Great Plain. This is the largest valley that pierces the hill country mountain ranges from east to west. It forms an important link between Megiddo to the west and the Jordan River Valley to the east. Surrounded as it is by mountain ranges, the relative flatness of the Jezreel Valley makes it a center for traffic, farming, and warfare. In fact, just as these roadways afford today's traffic a relatively easy course of travel, so in ancient times a large international roadway led through the valley, giving travelers and caravans east-west access. On the southeastern edge of the valley, we see Mount Gilboa. The section between Jezreel and the Jordan River is sometimes called the Harod Valley because a spring is found there called Ein Harod. It's a part of the system that supplies water to the valley. Nowhere in the country of Israel is there such a concentration of natural springs as we find at the base of Mount Gilboa. With abundant rainfall and the presence of these springs, it's no surprise that this valley represented agricultural riches during Bible times.
When the Hebrews first came to this area fighting against the inhabitants, they found themselves fighting against forces that would make use of chariots to try and control the valley floor.
We're told in the Bible that because of their disobedience, the Israelites were conquered by the Midianites, Amalekites, and peoples from the east. After enduring 7 years of this pillaging, the people repented, and the Lord demonstrated His compassion for the nation by prompting Gideon to rise and to drive out the invaders. At a time when there seemed to be no hope for the people of God, the Lord Himself intervened. God called Gideon to gather a force meant to expel their oppressors.
Here at the opening of the Harod Valley, the Midianites, Amalekites, and the children of the east located themselves at the base of the hill of Moreh. Judges chapter 7 and verse 12 tells us that the hosts and their animals were so numerous that they filled the valley like locusts. It was this host that Gideon and the Israelites would conquer, but not before God shrunk the size of their army.
The Lord expressed His concern that the Hebrew army was so sizable that they would credit their own fighting prowess for victory rather than crediting God. Hence, He wanted to reduce the number to such a small size that it would be undeniable that this victory was achieved by the might of the Lord. The first step the Lord implemented to reduce the army size was to allow those who were fearful of the upcoming battle to freely return home. Of the 32,000 men Gideon had amassed, 22,000, more than 2/3, departed. However, God sought an even smaller force than the remaining 10,000, and He used Ein Harod as the means of reducing the army even further. The water comes forth from this spring, streaming out and pooling in the shadows. He had Gideon bring the troops down to the water to drink, watching how they slaked their thirst. 300 knelt by the shallows and took water in their hands, bringing it to their mouths for a drink. These 300 were the ones the Lord led to battle. As the Bible says, these 300 were divided into 3 companies of 100 men each. They held torches hidden in pitchers and trumpets in hand. At the signal, they all blew the trumpets, shouted for the Lord and for Gideon. They exposed the torches, and they routed the Midianite host. This is a story of David versus Goliath, but on a regional scale. And no one could deny that God brought the victory to a spiritually renewed nation. But the events at Ein Harod remind us that righteousness matters. We can never allow ourselves to think that we can behave in an unprincipled way without consequences. And that's not the type of person the Lord wants us to be, and we don't want that for ourselves either.
This remarkable victory by the Israelites over the people of Midian reminds us that with God, great things can be achieved. We may face our challenges or our fears. We may feel at times as if our contributions are too small to make a contribution to the kingdom. But then we look back to this story of Gideon and we remember that Israel was victorious not because of their military prowess, but because they depended upon God and walked faithfully at His side. When you face your challenges and your hurdles, look back to this story and remember that you can depend upon Him, upon His strength, His wisdom, and His power. Remember the words of Peter who said, "Casting all your cares on Him, because He cares for you."
This history is a reminder of the powerful connection between faith and fact right here in the land of the Bible.